I've been thinking a lot about what it means to believe in something so much that it impacts the way we live our lives. I want to share this recollection by Michal Avira Samuel, reflecting on her childhood in Ethiopia and the mass immigration of Ethiopian Jews to Israel, which started in 1984. Michal writes this: "Up until the age of 9, I lived in a world where the Beit HaMikdash, the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, actually existed. Like my parents and teachers, I believed that the Second Temple stood in its place in Jerusalem and was literally made of pure gold. I grew up hearing about the Kohanim, the holy priests, and how they worked in the temple. I fell asleep listening to stories about the halo hovering over Jerusalem and about Jews who merited to dwell in the holy city, cloaked in white garments, people blessed with pure hearts, clean thoughts, and devoid of sin. Overhead, I would imagine the Shekhinah, the divine presence, as angels. Deep within Ethiopia, my family and I, along with our neighbors from the Beta Yisrael community, hoped to merit to return to Jerusalem one day. We prayed and we performed customs that expressed our yearning for Jerusalem. When we slaughtered livestock, we would turn the animals' heads towards Jerusalem. And whenever we noticed a flock of storks above our fields, we would chant a song in which we requested that the birds deliver our prayers, the hope to return to our homeland. We knew that the first temple had been destroyed. During the first 17 days of the month of Av, we would fast during the daytime. We chanted special lamentations in Amharic, and we practiced other customs of mourning prevalent among many other Jewish communities. We even continued ritual sacrifices as a distant memory of the temple times. How strong was our belief in the sanctity of Jerusalem? It dwelled within our homes in Ethiopia. The most powerful educational concept that resonated within children and adults alike in Ethiopia, passed down from generation to generation, was an awareness of the need for us to safeguard the purity of our hearts and our deeds in order that one day we would be worthy of entering Jerusalem, heaven on earth. The ideal of Jerusalem was the force that provided us with the stamina to persevere during the arduous trek through the desert. It was the dream that kept us going. We wanted to reach it, to achieve it. We buried our beloved family members, left possessions willingly behind, and lost them to vicious thieves. We struggled to keep going despite the terrible conditions and hunger, only because of our goal to reach Jerusalem of gold, and after so many generations, stand at the gates of the Holy Temple. Then we arrived and discovered that the temple had been destroyed. Jerusalem did not appear as the place I had so badly yearned to reach. Learning about the destruction of the temple only as I reached the gates of the old city was an earth-shattering disappointment, and it left a great void in me that I have been unable to fill. My father, who never ceased to dream for even one moment about Jerusalem and the temple, saw Jews traveling on Shabbat and witnessed immoral behavior desecrating the sanctity of the city. I could hear his heart breaking anew each time he experienced it. With the passing of the years, I attempted to fill the void within caused by the absence of the temple by dedicating myself to my work and to fulfilling my personal dreams. Upon maturing and having overcome the struggles of integration into Israeli society, Michal goes on to write, only then did I begin to understand how fortunate I was to have grown up believing the temple existed. I succeeded at forging my personality with the goal of being worthy of visiting the temple. The angels that I had imagined inhabiting Jerusalem in some way were my parents, who lived their lives striving to be pure enough to merit Jerusalem. Only after many years in Israel, having gained a familiarity with the country and its people, did this void within me become a strength, an asset. How well we remember the airlift of the Ethiopians, most of us. Villagers who had so little, barely surviving famine and war and hatred, transported into modern society carrying nothing but their knapsacks. This reality, and yet to live inspired by a belief that completely inspired them to act with integrity every single day of their lives so as to merit seeing the holy temple. What must it be like to hold that kind of belief that transforms into action, that transforms our lives? So what are the things that you believe in that, despite the reality of any given moment, inspires you to live the very best version of yourself? The English primatologist Jane Goodall, at age 88, has been speaking and writing a lot these days about living a life of purpose and the environmental devastation that we have wrought in this world. She talks about living by one's beliefs. These are her words. I was told at university that I couldn't talk about chimps having minds and personalities and emotions, and I knew that that was rubbish. I decided not to confront my professors, just to quietly go on doing what I knew was right. And at the same time, if I'm trying, it's the same thing if I'm trying to change someone who disagrees with me, to not be holier than thou and not say, well, you're doing wrong and you have to do right. Rather, you have to reach that person's heart. I do that, Jane Goodall says, through telling kids the stories of the chimps, because once they know, then they are empowered to take action. Like the Ethiopian Jewish community that Michal wrote about, beliefs are expressed through one's actions. And actions inspire hope for the future. Again, Jane Goodall. I'm about to leave the world with all the mess, whereas the young people have to grow up into it, and that is why they need every bit of help they can. If they succumb to doom and gloom, which many have, they lose hope. If you lose hope, that's the end, because if you don't have hope that there is a way out, if you don't hope that your actions can make a difference, then you sink into apathy and do nothing. So hope is absolutely crucial if we are to get through this. That's Jane Goodall recipient of the 2021 Templeton Prize. She is a living example that our hope can spread hope to others. Such is the case with an almost dead pear tree discovered near Ground Zero just a few weeks after the 9/11 attacks. The tree was removed from the rubble, and the reality was that its roots were snapped and its branches were burned and broken. But New York City Parks and Recreation staff believed that this tree needed to survive. For years, they nurtured and rehabilitated this tree. In 2010, the tree was returned to where the Twin Towers once stood, now a 9/11 memorial. Smooth new limbs extend from the gnarled stumps, creating a visible demarcation between the tree's past and present. The tree is a living reminder of resilience, survival, and rebirth. But more. Each year, the 9/11 memorial gives seedlings from the survivor tree to 3 communities that have endured tragedy in recent years. That is how hope can spread hope to others. And so I ask you, what are the beliefs that we hold as fundamental to who we are, and how do we live by them? How can we turn them into hope that inspires us and others in the year ahead? Ethiopian Jews ravaged by war, the devastation of global terrorism that we experienced on 9/11, the cataclysm of climate crisis expressed firsthand by a prominent anthropologist. And yet, they are the very voices telling us that there is hope to be found. Hope embedded in a story. For the Ethiopian Jews, hope in a 2,000-year story of a golden temple that we are worthy enough to merit. For the most beloved anthropologist of our day, hope in how the story of her chimpanzees inspire each generation. For the survivors of the destruction of the World Trade Center, hope in the story of a tree that survives and sprouts seedlings again and again. Hope is found not in light, but in dark. It is how we find our way through. We can find light only, most especially, in dark times. Our mystics teach that there is a kav, a beam of light that exists from the beginning of the universe. They wrote about how this strand of light, although faint, continues to exist in the world, stretching from God at the beginning of time through each generation, even at times when the world seems very dark. This kav, this strand, is also kav, as in tikva, hope, and kav, as in wait patiently. This is the night that we come back to our story and root ourselves again in our beliefs, inspiring us to live as our best versions of ourselves. May we find this beam of light shining in the darkness. If we respond with hope, perhaps this beam will grow in brilliance in the year ahead. Ken Yehi Ratzon. Good Yantif.